it was a good thing that I started with so much ignorance, because had I known everything that was required, I may not have pursued it, or I may have quit along the way. So I started looking for books, going on YouTube. That's when I came across Eric and his channel and the GovCon channel. And the one thing I liked about Eric, I felt that it is not a plug or a commercial, but I felt like it was genuine. I felt like it was real. And I really liked the fact that he took it down from the complicated level and broke it down to a language that the everyday person understands.
What kept you going?
The belief, because I knew it was real. I saw other people doing it and I said, our turn will come. A year later, it came actually 96 times. We've won 96 awards.
Well, on today's episode, I want to welcome someone that I saw grow from the first day. I remember when he reached out to us, when he first came to the virtual meet and greet. I believe it was a special occasion, but he made that extra effort to go outside and just to say hello and introduce himself. So today I want to welcome Mike Kontav from Two Lions Aerospace. He is actually the president of Two Lions. So Mike, thank you so much. And I wanted to welcome you to our show.
No, thank you so much for having me. And more importantly, thank you for even remembering that first call. I remembered it, but I didn't know that you would pay attention and would remember this. This was ages ago. And yes, I think it was my son's graduation. Last time we had real school and we went to celebrate for dinner.
Yes.
And I stepped outside to take the call. I can't believe you remember that. Yeah.
So now that you are on the show, it seems like that extra effort actually turned out to be successful and you reaching all your goals.
Well, I don't know about reaching all my goals, but I do see some progress. I do see progress. It's paying off and it's starting to make sense and come together more and more on a daily basis. So we're very excited about that.
That's awesome. So I like to take people back to the beginning, just because when we're talking offline, a lot of people resonate with my story. So I want people to know where Mike is from, where he grew up, where things like that. Tell us a little bit about you growing up and things you...
Well, no. Funny you say that, because if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have had no idea that I would have a government contracting business, and let alone, something that would get me to have a discussion with you. I grew up in Montreal, Canada, which is in the city of Montreal, in the province of Quebec, which is the only province which here in the States we meet, which is the state that is French over there. So I grew up speaking French. So if I speak funny, that's why. And I remember I didn't do so well in school, actually, at first. And but all I knew is that I wanted to manage people. That's all I knew that I wanted to do. I didn't know what capacity. I didn't know what and how. And long story short, I was in school and I wasn't doing too well. And I got put on academic probation. And so for my first year, I went and knocked on doors and I wanted to get a job, whether it was at McDonald's, at Burger King, and loading trucks. And I got turned down. And I said, man, no matter where I go, what application I fill out, I keep getting turned down. And at the time, my father came here ahead of us to apply for the papers. So I got my papers and I came here. I moved to Jersey. It was my first time coming to the state to live with him and to get a fresh start, if you would. And I attended Montclair State College.
Okay, so you came after you graduated high school?
Correct, after I graduated high school.
Yes. Brand new 18-year-old. Now you're a grown adult. Now go live the world in a new country, basically, because I'm sure it's different.
Yeah. I hardly even spoke English. I remember if I went to school and if the teachers didn't ask me any questions, then I would spend a day without speaking. That's how bad it was. And, as someone from another heritage, I'm sure you can relate to that.
Oh, yes.
And it took me a while. So, yes, coming to another country, coming to another culture, and the living conditions are different than what you used to. You don't have a social network. It was different. Yeah.
So you couldn't get a job. You knew you wanted to manage people. What was your first grown up job?
Well, my first grown-up job, as soon as I moved to the States and I realized that, I can't keep asking my parents for money. I have to earn my own. I got two jobs at the same time. I got a job at IKEA in the plant department. I was the guy offloading the truck full of plants and put them on the floor. And
plants,
Yeah, like plants do. And then people would come up to me and I was, hey, I have a living room with a lot of sunlight. Which plant should I use? And one lady's like, hey, I need a plane that doesn't take too much water. So I had to know all this stuff. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that's what I did. And I also got a second job part-time working at FedEx, loading bags onto airplanes. And that I'm going to say is the beginning of my aviation career, which we'll get to it, which led me here today. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you had the FedEx loading the bags and
Yep.
IKEA. But those were entry level. Were you more excited that you finally were out there and managing other people or having people come and ask you questions?
No, no. At this point, these were entry level jobs, and it's not until I saw an opportunity because FedEx believed in promoting from within. And at the time, I decided to put in the work and put in the whatever time, effort, energy that was required, and did all the studies. And I became one of the youngest manager in the Northeast at FedEx at the time at 22 years old. So at 22, I became a manager for FedEx, which most people don't know this, but which is considered an airline. And that was my first real job with my first real salary and real people to manage. I think my first group was like 35 employees or something like that.
Oh, wow. It
Yeah,
wasn't like
yeah.
you're managing just like a small group of two or three guys.
No,
You went
no.
from brand new to putting in your work and your time and effort. And I'm glad that there's companies out there that do see that
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
regardless of what we do, we want to be appreciated for the work we do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then at 22, manage.
Oh,
So
yeah.
where
Yeah.
did you go from there? What was your next phase?
Well, pretty much after this, long story short, they had openings for managers in South Florida. So that FedEx facility at Fort Lauderdale Airport, that was one of the five managers that got hired to run this facility. And that's when I started being an aircraft operations manager, which was my first exposure to aviation because now I was responsible for making sure the planes were loaded on time and that they were launched on time. And, I had a group of people of different skill set to make sure that this happens. And it's while I was there working with airplanes, I got tired with the corporate life, the regular corporate life, that I said, a friend of mine asked me, if you didn't do this, what would you be doing? And I said, well, I should be flying airplanes instead of managing them. And he said, yeah, why don't you do it? And long story short, I took flying lessons with a goal of becoming a FedEx pilot. And, life has a funny way of happening, but took flying lessons and did everything that I was supposed to do. And now I'm an airline pilot for Delta Airlines instead of FedEx.
Did you
So
ever wanted to fly a plane before that?
I can't even lie, Maria. I can't say that I was sitting on the wall and had a poster of Top Gun and wanted to say, hey, I'm going to be a pilot. No,
Yeah.
that's really not how that happened. As a minority, I must say that's not even something that I considered that was possible or within my reach or within my realm. I didn't
Oh,
know anyone
wow.
who did that. And so I started, and I think it was a good thing that I started with so much ignorance because had I known everything that was required, I may not have pursued it or I may have quit along the way. It
Hmm.
was one of those things I'll jump and figure out the parachute on the way down. And as I was learning as I was going along.
Wow. And you said that like you did it with a little bit of ignorance. I think government contracting, I did it with a lot of ignorance because I had no clue.
Yes,
I
yes,
hadn't even had a clue how this existed. So as I learned, it was very new, so I couldn't question a lot of it because
yeah,
I had no
yeah,
idea what it was. So whatever they
yeah,
told me is what I took
yeah,
from it. So
yeah.
that's how I was able to like, okay.
Exactly. That innocence, I believe, allows you to take more action because sometimes we know too much for our own good, and we question all our decisions. And just like a kid, they just go and they do. And that's pretty much how it is.
So you went from when you were a manager in New Jersey, you were still loading the bags. And when you came to South Florida, that's when you started doing more of the logistics, kind of like the timing and making sure everything was on the plane.
Well, as a manager at FedEx, I was in charge of the people loading the boxes and the planes. But yes, and then I moved into Florida. Then I was interacting more with the airplanes and the pilots. Then fast forward a few years, after becoming a pilot, being a pilot, I call it the greatest part-time job in the world. We work just about half of the month. We have at least 15 days off a month.
Oh,
And
okay.
in my mind, I said, well, what do you do with those next 15 days off that you have? Do you pick up a new hobby? Do you relax? In my mind, I decided to start a business. And I mean,
Like
what else am
most
I
people
going to
don't
do?
sit around and it's like, you know what? I have an extra half a month. I should just start a business.
Well, it's just, I always feel like I'm always excited about seeing again how fast human beings we could take things and how
Did you
fast.
know what kind of
Mhm.
business, or was it at any business?
Well, I've had different businesses in the past and I've
Oh,
done different
okay. So
things.
having a business
Yeah.
not new.
No, having a business was not new. I didn't have that learning curve by the time this business started, you know.
Okay. So what was this new business with your part-time job, full-time job would be?
Well, at the time I started with consulting for other people because one of the things that happened, I had friends and other people who had businesses. They were excellent salesmen. They had great productivity, but they weren't quite good at managing people or implementing processes. So as a FedEx manager going through their leadership and management classes and training programs, that's one thing that I thought that I could bring to the table. So people started asking me to help them consult and bring order to their chaos, if you would. And so that's kind of like how I got started. One of the business and one of the business I helped was an aviation parts business that would buy airplanes and
Mm-hmm.
resell the parts to airlines, in countries all over the world. And after some time of consulting for that business, that's kind of like, I saw the challenges and difficulties that he had with dealing with countries like Indonesia and Madagascar and Zimbabwe. I said, well, you're putting up all this effort overseas, but man, there's right here in your backyard this spot of gold called the U.S. government. If we could just figure out how to crack this code, you would have a pot of gold right here without having to do all that extra stuff that you're doing. So that's kind of like what led to my curiosity into government contracting.
How did you know the government would need those parts?
Well, I didn't know that they would need those parts, but I just always understood that the government is so massive. And especially, one of my favorite movies of all time, War Dogs. I had a feeling. And then when I saw that movie, man, the light bulb just went off. I said, I bet you we could do the same thing in aviation, you know?
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yes,
pretty
yes,
cool.
yes, yes. Even my kids, I think, have seen that movie like three times, three, four times. We love that movie.
When I saw it, like I know it said based on a real story, but it still didn't make me think that the government actually bought stuff from normal people. So
Yes,
for me, I
yes.
watched it and I just like, okay, cool movie, next.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so now that you have this idea, you have this company that you've been working with, how do you go about cracking the code, as you say?
Well, then, just like everything else, just like when it was time to move to the States or when it was time to understand the promotion system at FedEx and do the work in the same way it was time to put in the work to become an airline pilot, it was the same thing. I said, well, if I don't know it, there's information out here. Let me go and learn it. So I started looking for books, going on YouTube. And that's one of the great things when we talk about the ignorance that I had in the past. When I started flying, there wasn't all this access to information. Whereas today, anything anyone wants to do, it's right here at your fingertips. So went on a lot of YouTube videos, went on a lot of different, read a lot of articles, and that's when I came across Eric and his channel and the GovCon channel. And the one thing I liked about Eric, I felt that this is not a plug or a commercial, but I feel like he was genuine. I felt like it was real. And I really liked the fact that he took it down from the complicated level and broke it down to a language that the everyday person understands, and which is what I needed at the
Hmm.
time.
No, and
So,
I hear that a lot, and I think that's his biggest thing of me, like people like myself and other people that don't know anything, he's able to explain it and has the
yes,
patience to be able to explain
yes,
it in a different kind of way. Like you might understand it one way, somebody else might understand it another way, but he's
yeah.
able to take whatever subject it is and make you understand it at what you see, what you think, and things like that.
Exactly. Exactly like you said, at first you don't think that the government would buy from people like you and I, but then Eric has always pulling the curtain and letting hey, this is how you do it. And then the advantage of the community is when you do get on the call and I see other people that are having, stories to share and successes and different experiences. So now you really begin to believe that, wow, this is something that I could do. If what one man does, another one can, or woman, or person. Anything anyone can do at this point, someone else can do.
That's awesome. You have a very good positive way of seeing things,
No,
especially
well,
when it
thank
comes
you.
to learning something and like just new challenges. You don't
Yeah,
see
yeah,
it as a challenge. You see it as like, okay, let's do it. Like I have to
yeah,
figure it out. I have to find a way. And that's
yeah.
really good.
Exactly. No, well, thank you. But I do believe that's something that we could use more of. We want to do something. There's really not much stopping us. Yeah, sure, there are barriers of entries, but there's always another way around it. So if you
Hmm.
maybe not have the capital, well, then what else can you do? How else can I compete in that space? What unique skill do you have to bring to the table? And you won't know those skills until you put yourself through the test, through some challenges. You find out who you are, then you know what you have to bring to the table other than maybe the obvious things such as capital or different resources. So
That's true. So you found the channel and now, but before this, have you had any doing business with the government or
no,
even
no, I had never done business with the government.
all you
You
had
know,
done was consult for them getting their stuff in order?
with companies, private companies,
Hmm.
no one that ever dealt with the government. I had never dealt with anything or anyone who has dealt with the government at that
Okay,
time.
so starting the videos and starting because you jumped into the courses and stuff like that,
Mhm.
how easy do you think it was to learn this?
Looking back, people say knowledge is power. That's not true. Applied knowledge is power. So if you learn something, you don't do anything with it, it doesn't help you. So every time I would hear something like the OSDBU or, the different offices, the different resources that would be
Hmm.
mentioned, I would call up those people. So I would call up, my PTAC, my professional or,
Uh-huh.
technical assistance person. I call them all. I would call, hey, what is this? What is that? My SBA office. And I called people and I asked
Oh,
questions, and
wow.
that kind of like helped me put it together because I find that it was very vast. The government world is so vast and so big. And when you hear all the different ways to bid and all the different agencies, it didn't make sense to me. And
Okay.
but again, going through the videos allowed me to kind of start narrowing it down and narrow things down. And when I spoke to different people, even if I figured out that this wasn't for me or this was not the part that I was looking for, at least it gave me a moment of clarity and I understood how and where it fit in the puzzle.
I like that approach. Like you watch something, you do something. You watch
Yeah.
something because I tell people it is not the type of course that you're going to sit down,
No.
watch video 1 through 100, and
Yeah.
poof, it just happens.
No, no. It's kind of like learning how to drive. You could read the book till you're blue in the face, but at some point, you got to start the key, put your foot in the gas, feel how the steering wheel feels in your
Have
hand.
that
Then you got
break.
to drive. So or waiting for a trip and you want to leave your house and wait until all the lights are green before you start going. It's never going to happen. So at some point, you got to jump in and start doing. And you're going to stub your toe and you're going to make mistakes. But again, there's a lot of resources out there, and a lot of them are free. And that's the one thing about the government world is most resources are free. And these people are happy to get a phone call. So it makes all the sense to give someone a phone call and find out, hey, I learned about how do I do this? And they're very patient. They're very patient.
Okay, and that's good to know because I personally I am scared to pick up that phone. I'll be the first one to say it. And I know I've done it, but you were
Mhm.
like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think we need to hear other people need to hear that these people want to pick up a phone. They want to
Yeah,
talk to someone. You
absolutely.
have questions, they want to be able to explain it to you because in
Yeah,
turn, they're sitting in an office all day. So it gives them
yeah,
another human interaction, but also
yeah.
helps them make their jobs easier. If you know the process, then they don't have to explain it to you again.
Yeah. But, and even if you don't know the process, what they're happy and excited about is people, once they give you a piece of information, people who take action on that information. So they may realize, okay, you don't know much, but you're trying, you're putting effort and you want to know and you're consistent and you call them however many times it takes to get it done. I think that helps separate for them. They separate you from the pack because, there's some tie kickers and time wasters, but they like to see people, okay, you know what? This person is doing something. And the more you do that, the more encouraged and excited they are speaking with you.
Oh, that's nice of them.
Yeah.
One day I will try this.
No, but see, that's the other thing too, though. Different people have different ways of succeeding. Because I know your story going to the Coast Guard and you go for one visit and people talk to you and they like you, and one thing leads to another. You get this contract, and people just, so again, it's just different ways of doing it. And that's a beautiful thing. You don't have to do it. It's not a one size fit all formula. We have different personalities, different backgrounds, different skill set. So it's all about whatever resonates with you. And that's why your story, I love your story. And I love, for people to hear your story.
Oh, thanks. So now that you started making the phone calls, starting putting all the little pieces together, do you see them coming together and actually something's happening, or do you have to wait a little bit longer to actually see like the fruits of your labor?
Excuse me. No, for me, I like to see results. I don't want to do things just for the heck of doing things. And I like to see results at some point. So, and I knew that at the time, Eric was very busy, and I looked for people in my space, and I asked them, how do you do this? And how did you get started? And how do you put the rest of the pieces together? The one thing is I knew how big the space was, but I couldn't find anything that was specific to my industry. And until I found one person that did teach this to my industry. And again, I got a hold of this person and I stuck to them like white on rice until, at least they gave me the basics to get started. And from that point on, I started to bid on aviation parts for the U.S. government.
Where did you start bidding?
Well, at first, I went to all the bid boards, and there were so many. And again, I couldn't figure it out. And it's not until I started to go to SAM.gov at the time. And then that was the main place where all the solicitations were at, and that was my primary point of contact at first.
And you only were doing aviation parts. That was your niche.
Yes. At first, that's the bulk, and that's still the majority of what we do. And it's a little different than the service industry, and it's a little different than, the goods. And again, there's something for everyone, because this approach, the government puts out, I don't know, maybe 100,000 solicitations every day at least. And we narrowed down to the ones that are in our space. So we use software for that. We ask around, and there's ways you could filter through and have searches. And if, let's say, there's, I don't know, we end up with 500 solicitations on a daily basis, we bid on all those solicitations. We bid them all.
Oh.
And we started to bid. It's a numbers game. The more you bid, the more you win. The more you win, the more money you make,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
how many do you think you bid on already?
I have to pull up that data. I do have it, but just so you know, this marks, long story short, I did have the consulting business, and everything did fall apart during COVID. And
wait, so I said, hold on, we'll go back to that one. Yeah. So you start bidding, everything's going great, you're getting the process, and then you said COVID happened, and COVID wasn't that long ago. So where was the first misstep? I don't want to call it a misstep, but the first pebble in the road that you're like, because things the way we're hearing it, things are going good.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
And that's the part of the story I want to hear, because I don't want people to take away of like, oh, I just need an idea and things are going to be fine. I just have to follow the course and things are just going to be put to me on a silver platter.
Absolutely not. No. So first of all, again, we had someone show us the way in terms of how to narrow down the bids and the different software that were available. So I had to go ahead. And so again, I had the consulting business, and during COVID, everything fell apart. And that's when I decided to say, you know what? The one thing that's recession proof, unless there's a government shutdown, is doing business for the government. So we just started this. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary here. It's last July, that we started our government contracting business. Absolutely. So, man, the learning curve of assembling a team and figuring out the software and getting the capital to, have at least, some money to not only get the stuff to bid, but once the government gives you a contract, you have to pay for it up front, So even learning that, just learning the process. And again, it's something that we had to learn. We had to learn how to read a contract, and then we had to learn how to submit a bid. And then we had to learn how to communicate with the government. And then once we received an award, people think that that's when it ends. No, that's when it begins. Wow. After the award.
Oh, yes.
oh crap, it works. What do I do? And oh, and the one thing with shipping goods to the government, especially the military, especially aviation parts, the packaging requirements are so specific. So,
Yes.
what do you mean I can't just put it in a box? What do you mean I have to get the special envelope? And, navigating different boards, because as we know, dealing with the government is so complicated. So, once you get the award, then where you go to get registered and where you go to get paid are two different
Yes.
websites, and even how to set that up, and then so no, you kidding? So no, we had a lot of challenges.
Okay. So, because you just made me realize you started this thinking you were going to help this other company sell to the
Hmm.
government, and
Yeah,
then I just two lines is yours. So then you
yeah,
switched it up, and it's you are the
yeah,
one selling
correct.
these products.
Yeah,
You are
yeah,
the one that you have to know where to get the products to begin with, because I'm
yeah.
sure aviation parts for planes and other things are not found on Amazon or eBay.
No, and even if you did, the airlines want to see the paperwork. Now, my advantage that I did have, because I consulted in the aviation space, hadn't been a pilot and haven't worked for FedEx, two airlines, and having consulting for that company that was in the aviation space, the concept was the same or similar enough. Where whether you sell to a commercial airline or you sell to the Air Force, the
Hmm.
process was very similar. So where to look up parts and how to find them and what they are, whether it's a wing on a Boeing, on a jet, on let's say Delta, or whether it's a wing on an F-16, a wing is a wing, and there's only so many people who make airplane wings, so
Okay. But I'm sure there's,
so
like you
that part I
said,
had.
there's a paperwork that goes with it. It's not like I'm just
Oh
going to
my
send
God.
you a wing and a FedEx box and
Yeah, no. And the government at first, they didn't know us. They said, well, who are these people? And the one thing they wanted, in addition to a capability statement, was almost like a bio of your entire company. So, well, I don't know you. So if I give you this contract, will you be able to fulfill it? So I had to put
oh,
together this massive document at the time. Again, but it was really asking about your business, who you are, and will you be able to deliver these goods? Because you don't have past performance.
mm-hmm,
So I had to use, my past performance from my private sector. So, well, this is what I've done in the industry, in the private sector,
mm-hmm.
and this is why I have the confidence and the ability that I'll be able to do it for you, kind of stuff. So we had to bid on any and everything, not just airplane parts. We bid on screws, we built on anything, rulers, just so that we'd win small awards.
Uh-huh.
The dollar amount wasn't the key here, but really building the past performance. And you get a ruler and you could ship it to that office that needs it. Well, guess what? You completed the cycle. And it didn't
Yes.
matter the dollar amount. They just wanted to see that you understood the sales cycle, if you would.
So when you were bid, and what was that first one that came through?
Well, that's public information. And so if I go ahead and pull that up on DLA, we started to bid. Let me pull it up while we're talking here. But we started to bid, and we bid for even that, the ability to bid after you register with SAM.gov,
You
and the
said
ability.
DLA. DLA is one that I never understood. So the fact that you understand DLA system, it's just for me it was overcomplicated and it looked antiquated. So if you understand DLA, that's one that you have on a lot of people.
And just so we're clear, I don't want to lose too many people. But the one thing I got to understand is the government, for different things, different agencies, different branches, all have their way, their portal where you can
Yes.
submit your bids. And DLA is the Defense Logistic Agency, which is the one the Department of Defense uses. And but again, it took us a long time to understand. When I say a long time, maybe a month or two of
Okay.
of hitting our heads against the wall, but doing this every day. We assemble a team. I'm not here by myself. I can't take the glory. I shared the vision with a few people that were foolish enough to believe to jump on the ride with me and say, okay, let's go. And they helped make this thing a reality. So, but no, so that's how it started. And we bid, let's say, for probably a couple of months until we got our first award. Let me go ahead
And
and pull
I'm
it
glad
up.
you said you did it for a couple months. It's not like you bid, and within that same month, you got like,
No,
hey, you got
no.
this.
No, absolutely not. That's not how it worked at all. We, again, it was really a matter of we put in the bid and when you bid for goods, it's again, if there's 100 to the station and you go ahead and bid for 50, at least, hey, you'll win for one. And there's some things
Okay.
that over time you get better and better. It's no longer a stab in the dark. There's cues that you look for in the procurement history. How much did they pay for it in the past? Is this something that they buy often? Sometimes you can even tell projections of when they're going to need to restock things. So once you learn how to read, those patterns, then you could bid on things and increase, your wins, if you would.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
What kept you going month after month until you heard back?
The belief, because I knew it was real. I saw other people doing it. I stayed plugged in with the calls. It didn't matter that it wasn't what I was doing, but because other people were winning on your team and Eric's team, that, I said, well, we're going to win too. Other people are winning. And I could hear people with their first awards and their first contracts. And I said, our turn will come. And so it did, And here we are a year later. It came actually 96 times. We've won 96 awards in that 1 year period.
1 year.
Yeah, in 1 year, us, trying to figure out what we're doing.
So 1 year ago, you started the company. You
with
had
zero contracts.
Zero contracts. Started to put a team together for all your brains to come together to one person understands this, one person understands
Correct.
that, then I could explain it. Creating that team that understands the whole picture to start bidding. And to this day is 96 awards.
Correct.
Woo, that is amazing.
Oh, well, again, I can't take all the credit. We have a team like, I'm the big picture guy and I see the vision. My wife, works with the company as the VP of government operations, and she sees the details and runs the day-to-day operation and the money and things like that. I get the money. I know how to get the money. She knows how to spend the money.
She knows how to budget it nicely.
Whether it's at home or in the business, she's like, hey, I got awards I need to pay for. I need some money.
What did she think when you started this? When you came to her, the idea is like, you know what? I'm going to sell airplane parts to the government.
Well, at first, she was like, well, I do give her credit. She did believe in the track record, of my crazy unconventional ideas. And so I give her credit. She believed in that. And also because we put together a plan. We say, okay, and we knew, okay, we're going to reach out to people that have success in this arena. And Eric, again, being one of the major players in there, we're going to pick their brains and follow their blueprint and adapt it to what we do. So because we had a plan, she believed and she came on board, and, she is really the other half of making this happen as well. Yes.
So first win, what was it?
First win, it was some kind of a toggle switch, almost like a light switch. And it was for about like $2,400. Mm-hmm. And it was so that was the first win, and we said, wow,
how much was this switch like? How much does this switch mean to you?
Oh my gosh, it meant the world, because it meant like, wow, if we could get one, then we could get a whole bunch of others. And at first we just bid all kinds of things and all kinds of different profit margins, but we're excited to get it. We're excited to get it because it was real. And then we had to go buy it from the vendor and from the manufacturer, and we had to receive it. We had to inspect it, and we had to figure out what the paperwork meant. And, we went through the process of shipping. And, we're very fortunate because so far everything we sent has been accepted. Because if you mess up, the government either will hold your money or hold the package and send it back to you at some future date. So far, so good, knock on wood, nothing's been sent back and everything's been paid for so far. So even that first one, we read and we call people and, we sit down and we divide the tasks, divide and conquer, and leverage the skills of who's good at this and who's good at that. Someone's better at reading the details and following the instructions and doing it. And, even if you get stuck, I would call, DLA, and I would call, Sam, and I would call, hey, how does that work? I would call, the shipping company, the shipping branch of the government, VSM. Hey, this is not working. What am I doing wrong? Kind of stuff. So throughout the process, we got help. So you're never alone. You just, as you're stuck and they say, okay, this is what I've done so far and this is where I am. What do I need to do differently? You get people to help you.
Was the switch an airplane switch?
Yes, it was an airplane switch.
Oh, so
Absolutely.
your
Yeah.
first award was for an aviation part.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to say 90% of our awards are aviation related items. Yes, but there's all kinds of things that people wouldn't think go in an airplane. Electronic components, screws, bearings, and stuff like that. Yeah, we used a lot of those things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
your Switch came in, you sent it in, you get it shipped. And I've seen some of these products, the way they want it shipped, like you said, like it has to be on a wooden crate, this size by
Oh,
this size, then it
oh,
has to be
please.
covered in this kind of installation, and it has to be shipped over to this side of the dock and things like that.
Yeah, and we're like, what do you mean? So we got an award. That was exactly, it's funny you say that. It said, oh, it needs to be on a crate. It's okay. I just go in the back, there's a warehouse. I say, hey, dude, can I grab this crate? And I put it on this wooden pallet. And then, our inspector calls, hey, is this our government inspector? We do have one that comes and checks. And he goes, okay, is this on a heat treated pallet? I said, what? What is that? A heat treated pallet. So, we hit Google right away, heat sealed and heat treated. And okay, and this is how you recognize that. So we had to go back and, an employee jumped in the car and went to a warehouse somewhere and bought one for like $30. And okay, I guess this is what it is. But, again, till today, we learn as we go. We learn as we go. You're not going to know everything, but if you wait for all the lights to be green before you leave your house, you'll never leave, So same thing. We don't know everything. We don't pretend to, but we're very open to learning and we always ask for help. We always do. And we just keep doing.
From that first award to this next one, was it a little bit of time or was it a long time in between?
So our timing, we started in July and, we started in the worst time and the best time, because it's COVID,
July
you know,
2020.
July 2020. So, that's when COVID is really hitting and people are now working from home more. There's less staffing. It's an election year. We're coming close to the end of the government fiscal year.
Yes.
So to answer your question, they came at a trickle. And then all of a sudden, as we reached the end of the fiscal year, we got bombarded with awards like bam, bam, bam. We get
Oh,
sometimes 2 a day, 3 a day. Yeah, sometimes 5 a week, and so we'll go through dry periods and then we'll get bombarded with awards. And but from the first to the second one, they started coming in steadily. And the
that
one
must have
thing
been a nice feeling.
it was. And, we say, okay, this thing is real. We didn't do this for nothing. And this was not a hoax or this was not a fake story, So, and it's happening to us who knew nothing about this. A year ago, I didn't know anything about this. So
That's amazing to hear.
yeah. So, but no, it's exciting. It's exciting. And, now we keep looking for ways to do what we do more efficiently and to be better at it and to get to the level where, something like you, where we meet someone, go to a base and have direct relationships with the buyers directly so we could get sole source contracts. We're not there yet, but that's something that we're working towards.
Yeah. And it's gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
you did a lot of the big parts, which was picking up that phone, and you picked up the phone when, like you said, they were not in their office. So getting in
Yeah.
contact with a real person last
Oh,
year
yeah.
was very difficult. Because like you
Yeah.
said, the end COVID, end of the fiscal year, and then then it was budgets. They have to
Yeah.
realign
Budget.
the budget. So that takes a little
Yeah.
bit. And then it's right after they finally get the budget, they go into holiday.
They go into Holland. That's exactly what I was going to say. Then they go on vacation because they're burnt out from all the work that they did to meet their goals of fiscal year. So now everyone's on vacation. I'm like, dang, you got to be kidding me. So it was not easy. And then when there's a new administration, doesn't matter who comes into office. Everyone, there's a lot of changes and people are concerned about their
Yes.
jobs. And, there's a lot of, unease and uncertainty that happens. So it was just, the best and the worst time, at the same time.
Was your Switch your smallest award?
No, because we've gotten awards for $75, for $15. But again, sometimes the government will want one screw, and that screw could cost like 25 cents.
Mm-hmm.
But the manufacturer is going to go, well, I'm not going to sell you this one screw for 25 cents. Or you say, okay, well, in order for me to sell you that screw for 25 cents, I got to charge you $25. So, just to test the concept, we'd buy these 10 cents items and sell them for 25, 40, $50, and it worked. So no, we have awards that are 25, 15, $50. So yeah, the smallest I'm looking at right here is about $15. And then we have some that go up to the max of, those IDICs of 250,000. So we
Oh,
have
that's
all
what I was gonna
kinds
say.
of
What was your
rulers.
highest one?
Yeah, we have some for, you'll see if it's public information. If you go on our and pull up our cage code, the highest will be 250,000. Average is about eight. We have some for 25, 16,000. They range $800. So there's a wide range. It's not one thing. And, we don't stick to one. We just do the whole gamut. So,
What
but
was
yeah.
the weirdest? You said some of them are not aviation parts. What have been
No.
some of the odd ones?
So, like I told you the other day, they needed rulers. The government will
Oh,
need
that was
any
real.
engine. That's a true story. Yeah, yeah. They needed rulers. And it was like, oh, well, we can get these from Home Depot for like $10 and sell them at, $25 kind of stuff. So yeah, batteries. We've sold batteries. We've also sold car parts, and different things, circuit breakers. We've sold.
So
Um,
actually for those because we're gonna put this on YouTube too, just for
mhm.
those people watching, I
Yeah.
want to share my screen because like he said, it's a lot of it is public information. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
FPDS.
Yes.
So I put two lines up here, just
Hmm.
their name, and then as you see, Department of Defense 93 contracts.
Yep.
So
Right.
So you see that DLA, which is what he said, Defense Logistics Agency 93, and their name here. So in, like you said, a year's time, it's been 93 of them.
Yes. And you can see even the dollar amount is public information.
Hmm.
So again,
Yeah, sometimes the only thing you're not going to see is what exactly what it was.
correct. Yes. But
Like a fluid,
anything,
yeah.
yeah.
Six, but still, like I tell people, an award is an award. I don't care.
Oh,
Like you
yeah.
said, your
Yeah.
$15 screw. Because what if they were just looking to see if the screw is what they need, and now they
Oh,
could
yeah.
order more, and they know
Oh,
exactly who they got
absolutely.
it from.
Absolutely. The government does that all the time. They put out a solicitation for one item and they just want to test it. So they'll spend the money. So you could actually make more money testing the item than you can selling the item to the government because they're going to want
Mm,
you to go ahead and find a supplier that's going to set up shop and put up all the machinery and then create the item. And then you send it to the government and then they're going to beat it up and put it under extreme conditions and stress test it. So just that whole setup, you actually charge the government for this and you charge them a fee in order to do
mhm.
that. And so the item could be $1,000 item, but the testing phase may cost $5,000 to $15,000. So, absolutely.
The 93 on I think you surpassed in quantity the number of contracts a person could get in 1 year.
No, no. I believe there will be a day we could do a lot more than that.
Like
This was
this
just
is
the
the
getting
story
started.
for our website. It should be in the front cover. 96 awards in 12-month period.
No, again, the team, work well together. It's funny because sometimes we call DLAs, hey, we're stuck, this, that, the other. And they said, we're trying to get more awards. And you'll see the agents, well, let me pull you guys up. And they'll put our cage code and said, you did what? And how long? I said, do you know there's people that go a year and 2 years don't even get one? And you guys did what? So, no. So, again, right people, right time to believe the great team. And, again, I cannot take all the credit.
But
My wife
again,
the
you didn't
other
bid
half of
on
the
like
brain.
one thing. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
bid on like two things and
No,
wait.
no.
No matter how many you were waiting on, every single day or however you did it weekly, you said
Mm-hmm.
if there was 100, we bid on 100. If there was 500,
Yeah,
we bid on 500.
correct.
That takes a lot of time, dedication, and even like perseverance and faith to know like this, like you said, this is going to be worth something. Like one
Yeah,
day
yeah,
it's going to happen. One day it's going to happen. I just have to
yeah.
keep bidding on everything I see that I can provide.
Yeah,
So it
absolutely.
happens.
Yeah, no, it really does. And, this is a numbers game and a pipeline game because we may have bid on something 6 months ago and you forget about it. But because you bid on it 9, 10, 11, 12 months ago, it doesn't mean that it's lost. It just means that the government doesn't need it today because what they do is they stock their shelves in advance. And when it hits, let's say a certain level, 50%, bam, that'll trigger the system to buy more. Sometimes we get
Oh,
awards for things that we bid on 6 months ago or 5 months ago. So all the work, effort, and energy that you did, unless you get an email that says you were not the successful bidder,
Mm-hmm.
it's still fair game. It's still open. And lo and behold, we get a lot of those awards from a week ago, from a month ago to 6 months ago.
Oh, I never
Yeah.
thought about it.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
build a
true, they
pipeline.
have to know where they could get it from when it hits that threshold of it's time to reorder.
Correct. Yes. And, like I said, the military doesn't like to at least react because when the troops are out there on the field and they need something right away, they need to be able to send it to the troops. So they monitor not only the quantities that they have on the shelf, but at which rate they're depleting a particular item. So that's what will trigger. Okay, before we get to zero, let's say we get to 25%, let's order some more kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So, and you never know when that's going to happen for you on this end who's selling to the government.
Now, we talked about this earlier. You said your office is in South Florida. You are based out of South Florida. Have you
Mhm.
shipped anything to South Florida?
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because no, a lot of times before we sell overseas, we sell a lot, we ship a lot to Virginia to like a base, and
Mm-hmm.
then the base is who's going to go ahead and sort it out.
Okay, so you're
Yeah,
not sending it overseas. You ship it to a base that they will
correct.
take care of it and take it overseas.
Correct. And I'm glad you brought back the office because, again, when we talk about putting into action what we hear, and I heard Eric talk about the different set asides, when you are either a minority or a woman or a veteran, so forth and so on. But there was something else. We could not be 8A at the time. And I did not want to be 8A yet until we do some teaming agreements, which is partnering up with companies. However, I heard Eric mention something called the Hub Zone and our lease was up. So we went crazy looking for an office that was in a hub zone because figure if we're going to move, let's move to a place that's a hub zone to get the opportunity to bid on government contracts that need to meet the hub zone requirement. So that's how
Ah,
we picked our office. So we looked for hub zone. You
uh-huh.
go to sba.gov and you pull up the hub zone
Map.
map, you put in your zip code and you see where they are. And then now you look for office space that is within that area.
Oh, okay.
But
What
again, we picked that up from GovCon Giants.
did you do the certification yourself?
Actually, I got the SBA to help us out once again. So the SBA will help you out, and then they provided us with a consultant that did that for us, and it was a very minimal fee. It did not cost $1,000. So I don't want to give a price because different people in
Mm-hmm.
different areas, but it was not a
But
thousand
you got your
dollars.
resources from the SBA directly. You
Correct.
didn't go to this third party person that's charged because I've heard they charge like $10,000. Just
Wow.
I've
No, we
heard
did
like
not.
five to
No.
$10,000.
No, no, no. We did not even reach the
So,
$1,000
so
mark. So
people, please, please, please
no,
use those resources. Like he
use
said,
those
he started
resources.
calling PTAG and SBA and let them know
Yeah.
that they are out there to help you. And
Oh, absolutely.
even if you join the SBA's like email list, like I constantly get emails from the SBA, like we're having this, we're helping with
Yeah.
this, and you just
Yeah.
have to use it.
Yeah.
Don't
Exactly.
go wasting money that as a new business we all know we don't have.
Exactly. No, there's tons of resources out there, and there's no need to pay for expensive stuff. And like you said, Maria, you get all kinds of email. You don't have to read them all because I don't, but I
I
scan through. If something
know.
catches your
Yes.
attention, yeah, you'll read it. But again, those people, they're people at the SBA office and your PTAC office, and some of them have access to great resources,
Hmm.
and they'll either forward you information or they'll let
Yes.
you know. So when it was time for our Hub Zone certification, we call them. They give us someone and
Okay.
then we contacted that person and they gave us a special rate because it was through the SBA and they helped us with the certification. That took about a month or so, give or take.
Oh, okay. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
But now you're
Yeah.
Hub Zone. And you
Correct.
have
We're
to
Hub Zone.
update it once a year to prove that your employees are within the Hub
Yeah.
Zone.
Yeah. 35% of your employees.
There
Correct.
you go. See, you know the
And
numbers.
yeah. Yeah. And again, it doesn't have, if you don't have someone, just grab an intern on a college campus. And that counts because most colleges in the country are in hub zones. You get some kid that does your social media and you pay him
Hmm.
$100 a month. That counts. So
Oh, okay. You're very business smart. Like you take
no,
a little bit.
I listen. I take good notes from you
Yeah.
guys. That's really what
Yeah.
it is.
One of our podcast guests, that's what he said. He's like, all you have to do is get an intern. Most colleges are Hub Zones, so
Yeah,
use them
absolutely.
if you need a
Yeah,
person. Yeah.
yeah.
So that is amazing. What is next? You hit that 1 year mark a couple months ago. Like what's your next step in this?
Well, now, the goal is to triple, the sales revenue that we did, and we're going to do that very strategically and specifically, like Eric says, the hub zone is a license to fish. Doesn't mean that you're going to catch more fish. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to specialize now. Now we're going to specialize with, hub zone. We're really going to go ahead and expand in that space. We're going to expand with the teaming agreements and to go for subcontractors, for companies that have huge contracts that have to deal with, smaller companies. So this is the strategy for this year. And really those three things, I think, are going to take us to the next level.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you feel a year later?
Too busy to put out fires to really know how it feels. So, we just focus on the doing, but we do have to celebrate the wins, whether they're small or win, because the small ones do bring, the bigger ones. So no, we're very happy and excited that not only, we made it alive after 1 year, but we do have a few awards to show for it.
That you actually did something within that year and not just let a company name build time. You actually build a lot of past performance, because you said people in DLA are surprised of how much you guys have within what we it is a very a small time frame. So that's awesome. Like, you guys were persistent and stayed at it. You were able to choose the right people. And how did you know who to choose?
Well, I think sometimes the people chose us. We look for, and again, this was a learning process. This was not a perfect formula. The team has changed and the team is always evolving. The more the next time you do a different decision, but hiring and putting together teams is not an exact science. You may have things that you'll do and some things that, work for you, but, it's hire slow, fire fast, unfortunately, is really what I've picked up over the years.
At least you're not scared of, you keep them because they're part of your team and they have to accomplish some part.
I only want to be surrounded by people who want to be here. And we try to make it a family community environment. But at the same time, people know when they don't pull their weights because, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. Everyone sees their numbers and everyone sees and they know. By the time it's time to go, they know.
Are you still a pilot for Delta? Or are you
absolutely greatest part-time job in the world? So I still fly, and I fly less, so maybe I fly 10, 12 days a month or so. So I have maybe 18 days off a month. Between the days off, and again, my wife is running the operation and the rest of the team. There's always someone here 5 days a week, and we're on all the time.
Oh, wow.
But with technology, you monitor the business at all times, as soon as I get to my hotel, I love this stuff. So it's not a chore. I don't feel like it's extra work. I like to log in and see what happened. I like to know what's going on. And I like to get the text. Ooh, I like to get the award. Every time we get an award, it's always exciting. And some days we get 3, 4 awards in one day now.
Regardless of the amount, and the next award is still as exciting as that first, second,
absolutely,
third.
Absolutely. Once we get that DLA, you've been awarded this, bing, and it comes up. I don't even know what the dollar amount is.
Doesn't matter what it is. I just know I got something.
4 digits, 5 digits. I don't care. We're just excited to get the awards.
That's great.
And we love the game because we know. The only thing that I know is that I don't even know what I don't know, and there's so much more out there between what we've done and what there is to do, and how big this pie is. There's not enough people who are doing this. So this is a space where there's more than we could ever do. And that's why I'm not afraid of telling others about it, because even if 100 new people join this business, it would just be a drop in the bucket. Really, there's more than we could all do collectively.
That's great to hear, because when I first started all this, Eric used to tell me people don't want to share because they're afraid you're going to take theirs.
Please.
Because you came along now, they can't get that award because and it's not like that. Like you said, there's so much opportunity out there. Look, out of 500 plus bids, how many do you get? So why not allow someone else to put their name in the bucket?
Absolutely. You're not going to get them all. We get about maybe 3 to 5% right now of what we get, but so that means that 95% gets awarded to other people. So, and some of them go unawarded. If you went right now, you could go back and see how many contracts are unawarded, or sometimes they still didn't get to it because people are still working from home. and there's a pipeline that they can't get through fast enough. So there's
So you
bids
can't
that are
slow it
out
down
there.
either. Just because
You
they're
can't slow it
slowing
down.
down, just because
Yeah.
they're slowing down, you can't slow it down.
No, you got to build the pipeline. You got to build the pipeline so that it's always flowing. But at first, you have to take the time. But the work that you did for months ago, for whatever reason, is still going to be out there. But we can't be afraid of sharing that business. That's not how abundance work. Me having more does not mean you having less. So the more we tell, I think the more people we help, and then the more people win. I think the more we win.
And the more people that look like us and that don't
Absolutely.
think that they
Yeah.
are like people that were not so great at school, people that had careers that thought they were successful, people that think differently, people that look different. That way, everyone's able to get into this and
Yeah,
build something
absolutely.
themselves. And
Yeah.
like you said, it takes a lot of hard work. Like you
Yeah.
took it as your hobby,
Yeah.
but it's not a hobby that it's just all fun and games. Like you
No.
put in the time, you
Yeah.
put in those night hours, those early
Yeah.
hours. Like you get to your hotel, you're probably tired of being in the sky with the pressure difference and everything. And your wife had to learn this too. It's not just
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Learn how to run a
And
business
to
and
your
things like
point,
that.
she has an event planning business. She's a wedding planner by trade. Yeah, sure. Before that, she worked at the bank as a mortgage loan officer, has a sales background. But again, it's just to show this business doesn't care, what you did in the past. One of my bidders is my son. He's a college kid. So he bids. So he had to learn this. But the point is, the computer doesn't care what color, what age, what gender, what background. You want it, you put in the work, there it is. We represent the different backgrounds that, are possible. Educated, not educated, doesn't matter.
Oh,
Doesn't matter.
yes. It doesn't matter as long as you put it in the
Yeah.
right way, how they ask for it, the time they
Yeah.
want it,
Yeah.
and that you deliver afterwards. Because, like you said, getting awarded a contract is not the end. It's not the
No.
trophy you get. It's like
No.
where it starts. Now it's
Yeah.
time to prove to them that you could get the next trophy, and the next one,
Exactly.
and the next one.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
give us some words of wisdom of how your life has changed, or what you would tell somebody with this thought process. Like, where were you a year ago, and like what advice would have you given yourself, even though you had a very good run?
Well, a year ago, again, there was a lot of unknown, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. But just like everything else, it's you got to do it to break the fear, and then to know the fear, to understand the fear, then to conquer the fear. So you got to do it multiple times and keep at it. And there's always pain and growth, and most things we want lie just outside of our comfort zone. So the more things you want, just get more uncomfortable, because everything you want is just outside of your comfort zone. So get used to that. And after a while, you see a pattern, with getting uncomfortable and starting new projects. And, so yeah, I may not know something, but after a while, you learn how to learn, and you learn how to apply and execute kind of stuff. So, don't focus on how much you don't know, just focus on doing. And the more you do, the more you learn, and the better you get at executing. And remain humble and always be open to learning. Don't be afraid to ask, others, peers, people who are more successful, people who are less successful, people who are doing things differently. And, it all contributes to your growth at the end of the day.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for being an amazing story to share with others and being willing to share. Because like you said, more people that know, more people that hear your story. And like I told you, I love doing these. Like I was very apprehensive about being on a podcast, but I love sharing the stories because like I said, it surprises me how many people learn from things I've done. And that's why I want someone to look at you and be like, there's something about you that now I feel motivated and inspired that I could do this too. And the next person, and they inspire the next person. So it's like paying it forward, like give people that chance to feel inspired, motivated, because it's all in us. I think everyone just needs that little bit of a little push to get going.
And like you said, it's great that you're doing this, using your platform for this, because there's a ripple effect. You never know how far your actions go, and having the different guests and the different people with different backgrounds, someone may be a listener for months until one day they hear someone who resonates with them and connects, that, makes the jump. Or some people might feel, oh, well, I'm too good for this. Or some feel, man, I don't have it in me kind of stuff. And they hear something. But again, nothing beats, your story. I just love it. The amount of success and how you move it. And I'm like, man, I tell people about you all the time. So no, I love it. So at some point, I know people heard, but we may have to recycle you being on the other side of the podcast so that more people, now that the group is bigger, can hear your story and be inspired.
Thanks. I'll jump back into GovCon first. I know I'd taken a little bit of time to go back into, a lot of people don't know this, but I went back into teaching this past year and a half because I didn't want our kids to not like going to school. But then I was talking to Eric the other day and I was telling him, like, I told my kids we hit 1 million viewers.
Wow.
So excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So I was like, thank you. They said something. I'm like, I'm on YouTube. They're like, no, you're not. So I pull up the video and they're like, oh, they're in awe. So and also, like, days like today, I show them something on YouTube, and they're like, we want to see your video.
Yeah.
So even at the age of 5, and that they could see people like us on YouTube, I hope that creates more of a sense of entrepreneurship, because that is something we don't teach at school. Like, you wanted to manage people, but how do you do it?
I don't know. The most important skills, such as living with someone or raising kids or managing your personal budget, these things and credit, you're not really taught those things in schools, but these are the things that'll get you through. And exposing the kids like you're doing is great, because not only you don't know what spark you might ignite in them, but you don't know when, because those videos that you're posting, they're still going to be relevant a year, 2 years, 5 years from today. So one of your students might be, hey, I remember my teacher, Miss Maria, and they're going to look it up and you don't know what's going to happen. That ripple effect, you have no idea.
Yeah. So I'm loving that I'm there, because they're getting a different side of a human, of it being just a teacher. They get to see everything we do. And like I said, I share with them 1 million views. So they were so excited. So we made Eric a video and just to say congratulations.
Oh, wow.
So things like that I love. But when I'm planning on jumping back to GovCon just because I want to share more of, like you said, I have the knowledge and the values. So I want to go back to it. So when I get there, I'll be on the other side again.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
I need some wins under me, some relevant ones. So
all the wins are relevant, whether it's the wins with the kids, whether it's, a personal growth, or whether it's the business. And we have to redefine a win, right? A win is not always what society says it is. We have to redefine a win as to what it is to us. Yes. And learn how to recognize them. And you, with the kids, I always say, teachers, it's unbelievable, because when my kids come home and they know how to read, my mind is blown. I wouldn't know how to teach a kid how to read, and it's amazing.
How old are your kids?
They're 19, 15, and 11 now. And, and when I see the pace at which they learn and the words that they know and the topics, and they know so much more than I did in my time, there's not enough words to describe the gratitude we should have towards educators. So redefining our wins, because they're not what society says they are. And we have to learn to recognize our own win and celebrate them along our own individual journeys, whatever they may be.
Yes. Whether it's like you're learning your alphabet, or you won your first bid, or you won your first $5 million contract.
Absolutely.
So everything, I celebrate every single thing from my kids to our next person in our community that is growing. We celebrate the wins, we share the tears, we share everything in this community. And that's why I love it. And that's why I'm still here.
And glad that you're here. You don't feel different when you took a momentary break, but we all need our own breaks, me time. But no, absolutely. We're glad that you're here, because you bring an integral special part to the team that, everyone, could try, but you have your own shoes that, only you can feel, kind of stuff.
Thank you. Well, I won't hold you any longer. I know South Florida traffic.
But at least we beat the traffic. It's done now.
Well, we're up north, so we don't get it as bad as down south.
Yes, but the office is in Fort Lauderdale, so I
know that's why I know, like, you have that traffic. That's where I get stuck going home, by the way.
Yeah. When you live up there,
Yes. So thank you again. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all your words. And I know that somebody is going to feel something after listening to your words because you are amazing.
Oh, no, no. Thank you, Maria. And it's nothing different than everyone else. The information is here. Let's just take action and do something with it a little bit at a time. Don't compare yourself to the next person. Start where you are and see what happens, you know?
Awesome. All right.
Great, great. Well, thank you,
So,
Maria. And looking forward to that cup of coffee. No pun
yes,
intended.
I'll send you
Yeah.
my number. I try to look for your number on your mail on your
On the
email
email.
thing and I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
find it. So, what's your number, sir?
I'm going to send that over to you
There you
via
go.
the email. However, that being said, anyone in the GovCon community, anyone who needs help with government contracting, or at least a little bit perspective that I have, I'd be more than happy to share and more than happy to go ahead and give whatever I can that could help someone make progress. So we could do that with, either my email. I don't know if you could put it at the end of the
Mhm.
podcast or whatever.
We
And
will.
by all means,
All right. Thank you.
All right, Maria. Thank you. Have a great evening. See
Bye.
you next time.